outside of any in-person task, VAs can do 95% of any monotonous task, even if it's not monotonous. Lead generation, talk on the phones, negotiate deals, make offers, right? When you sit down, and we're thinking about in the real estate space as a business owner, and you wrote down all of the tasks that you need to complete on a daily and weekly basis, I would assume the percentage of things that could be handed off to a VA, if trained properly and managed properly, would probably be close to 75% of most of that stuff is something that could be handled by a virtual team member for a lot cheaper than either one, doing it yourself because time is money, right? You need to focus on the income generating activities, or two, if you are going to be able to give those out to somebody here locally.
Welcome back to the Pursuit of Property podcast. Today, I'm sitting here with Cade Barrett. We're going to be discussing our experience dealing with virtual team members and local team members alike, and how you manage a team.
Yeah, dude, it's good to be back in the studio recording. I know we've had a couple weeks off. Our boy Jonathan was out of town. We were out of town a couple weeks before that, so we've been a little bit sporadic with our recordings and our postings, but we are glad to be back. Happy to bring this episode to you guys. And it's something we get asked a lot about. We have 7 virtual team members on our team.
Yeah, 7.
7 virtual team members, all out of the Philippines. And they do a huge part of the heavy lifting on our team. They're all in different various roles. And I think just being able to provide you guys the value of, 1, how to find them, 2, how to manage and grow your team members, and 3, how to cultivate a culture that retains those team members, continues to grow and build your team, especially when they are however many miles away and not physically in the office like a lot of people would expect.
Yeah. No, it's oh, my mic cut out for a sec. It's definitely a learning curve. It requires a lot of growth from whoever's managing those team players too. You and I both manage different VAs from different countries. We've had to manage different positions. We've both managed kind of a direct way and also in a more hands-off way. So we're just going to share kind of our insights on what we've learned, what's working for us right now, and hopefully whoever's listening to the podcast, if they have a virtual team member or they're thinking about getting it, we can provide some insight there.
Yeah, I'm curious, and I don't know if you remember relaying this conversation to me, but one of always the biggest talking points with virtual assistants, right, is the pay, hours worked, and there can be a lot of pushback, right, as to why somebody would hire a virtual team member versus an in-person team member. I can't remember. You were relaying a conversation with me where you were having a discussion as to, ethical versus unethical, like why it was a strong piece to utilize on our team versus trying to answer some of those pushbacks. Do you remember what I'm talking about or no?
Is this a conversation with Peter?
It could have been Peter or Tim.
Yeah, no, I think it was Peter, and he was arguing with me that it was immoral to use out of country employees because he felt that the pay for what they're doing was unfair, something like that.
Yeah.
The big thing to recognize is, like, we've become kind of a global economy, which is good and bad like everything else. And we've gone through and we've worked with people in the U.S., local, and we've paid that rate. And then we've gone and worked with out of country and we've paid their rate and worked with them. And ultimately, like, our size business can afford to pay really, really good income to somebody over in the Philippines to do their job, where they have a very comfortable lifestyle, very happy with their wages, versus trying to bring on somebody in the US who in most situations can't do it that much better than in the Philippines, but minimum wage here is like double what we have to pay a really happy wage in the Philippines.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest distinction just to make and communicate is that it's not, when you are looking to hire virtual assistants or paying virtual team members on your team, is that just the state of living, the value of the US dollar, like it's significantly different. It's a completely separate country to where, like you mentioned, the important piece to add is a very comfortable, if not, sometimes even, a virtual team member in a sales position can live a very luxurious lifestyle in the Philippines. Yeah. And people would be surprised as to what you would pay a virtual salesperson versus an in-person salesperson.
Yeah, for sure. And like, even when we were looking at our team's income, I mean, they're all making pretty substantial income compared to what the standard in the Philippines is, which obviously we don't want to pay whatever the average person in the Philippines makes because they're doing a above average job, right? So we pay them quite a bit more than what a lot of competitors pay. But for us, it's retention, giving them the lifestyle that they want. And then a lot of it has to do with culture and being a part of something.
And I think the first domino to fall in order to get to those things that you were mentioning, right? A culture for your company and people who are going to be successful in the roles you put them in, whether that's a transaction coordinator, a lead generator, a lead manager, in some cases, even on our team, a property manager, right? Who handles a lot of that communication with the tenants. That first domino to fall, and I think it's important, is paying slightly above the going rate at that entry level position, right? And I think this is even a strategy that a lot of people talk about in the real estate space here when you're talking about hiring team members and growing your team is if you want those A+ players, it's good to start at that slightly higher premium than just the going rate. Because we want A+ players on our team. We want people who are going to perform at an A+ level. And so by starting at that rate that's slightly higher, you're going to entice at, probably a more strategic group of virtual team members who can perform better than at the going rate.
Yeah. I think all of that's important. And I think the other part to acknowledge is you have to make sure you know what you're actually hiring somebody for and make sure that it makes sense for a VA, right? So VAs can do a ton of stuff. VA is virtual assistant. What they can't do are like the in-person tasks, obviously, like handwriting note cards to sellers. They can't knock on doors. They can't attend appointments. They can make calls. They can work on the CRM. They can take notes. They can set appointments. They can make offers. They can manage escrows. They can do a lot of stuff, but they can't do some of the in-person stuff. So if your business is needing help there, a VA is probably off the table anyways.
Yeah, I think, and that's another pushback from a lot of people is, right, what would I even pay a virtual team member to do? What can they do? And you made a good point that outside of any in-person task, VAs can do 95% of any monotonous task, even if it's not monotonous: lead generation, talk on the phones, negotiate deals, make offers, right? When you sit down, and we're thinking about in the real estate space as a business owner, and you wrote down all of the tasks that you need to complete on a daily and weekly basis, I would assume the percentage of things that could be handed off to a VA, if trained properly and managed properly, would probably be close to 75% of most of that stuff is something that could be handled by a virtual team member for a lot cheaper than either one, doing it yourself because time is money, right? You need to focus on the income generating activities, or two, if you are going to be able to give those out to somebody here locally.
Yeah. And I'm not going to push down on giving sales positions to people here locally.
Yeah.
I think I've just found that a lot of the virtual players that you can find are just as good as the in-person. But their price expectation on what you pay them is significantly different.
Very.
And it's not like they're not making money. It's just their cost of living is significantly different, right?
Yeah.
So you can pay them a really, really good wage over there where you have a lot of, tackiness, where they're sticky to the business. They're not just going to go start their own business.
Yeah.
And they're able to pay for their family, right? And so it's like, okay, you're giving them enough money to support their family. They like the business they're in and they're good at it. Where if you're going to go out here and try to find somebody in Fresno for minimum wage or whatever, you're not going to get the A player. Or if you do, it's very temporary. And then that A player is going to go to the next thing, right?
Yeah. And to rewind a little bit, when we talk about a lot of questions we've got and we've given people guidance on is one, where do you even find, a virtual team member that may be a good fit for your team, right? So literally opening up the playbook, the biggest place where we have had experience, interviewing VAs, finding VAs has been Facebook groups. So there are a ton of groups on Facebook, excuse me. Jeez, dude, we're hurting today.
Sick for like a week.
I know, dude. Virtual team members, Philippines virtual assistants looking for work. Like there are tens, if not hundreds of Facebook groups that you can go throw a job posting in there. And within 24, 48 hours, you could have 100 applicants, right? So that's step one. Facebook's the predominant place where we go and put those job postings.
Yep.
That second step is you have to treat it as if it's any other interview that you've done or that you've given here in the States, right? So you need to vet resumes, right? Make sure the people who are submitting an application for your job have experience in the position that you're looking to hire. We also usually have them submit a voice recording, right? Because again, for a virtual team member where English may or may not be their first language, we want to make sure if we're especially hiring for a sales position, we want them to be able to communicate the best they can in the English language, right? Because they're going to be talking to sellers. So typically a voice recording and then look at resumes. Step two is actually conducting the interview. So we have a sheet that we've shared and given people on the best interview questions to ask. You can literally look on Google, pull the same type of interview questions that you have either answered yourself as you've been going through your job search or any interviews that you would give to an in-person applicant, right? And conducting those interviews virtually over Zoom or Google Meet and having it be structured in a very, very similar way. You're going to treat it as if it's any other interview, but that's step one on where to find, and step two, kind of how to sift through the resumes, the voice recordings, and start that interview process.
Yeah. Tactically as well, we tend to do a probation period, and during the probation period, it's training. So they're getting paid, but it's a discounted rate for the training portion. Usually it's a week or two. Then they bump up and they're kind of in this extended probation for 6 months where we're watching them a little closer, making sure they're hitting KPIs, making sure that we aren't having issues with tardiness or no showing or things like that, and making sure they're a good fit. And then after that 6 months, they're pretty much an established team member and they're getting PTO, they're getting, federal holidays, they're getting all these things that, you would give to any employee, just they're in the Philippines.
Yeah. And you made a good point about training. And training, if you're looking to hire a VA, it's very hard. Imagine if you were starting a job and, you start with your boss and you have the person that's training you, but you're given no guidance. You're given the job you're expected to complete, but you're getting no guidance from, your boss, your manager, or whoever it is. The majority of us have been in that type of position. And as an employee, it really fucking sucks, right? It's very irritating. It's very frustrating. Off the bat, you're not in a very happy position with where you're starting. So the important piece here with training is you need to make sure when you're hiring and bringing somebody on that you have the best available building blocks in place to give this person a very smooth training period. That's a combination of SOPs, standard operating practices, right? Whether that's on paper or video format of the tasks that you're going to be having this virtual team member complete, and whatever's in their job description needs to be either in paper or video form, and then you need to be along with them side by side on a Google Meet or a Zoom as if they were in the office with you in person, right? So having those standards and procedures set and ready to go and to hand to that team member when they start, I think that's where the culture piece, that's the first piece, that needs to be solidified if you want to build that great culture and retain really good employees. Because if they start off on the wrong foot, it's very hard to dig yourself back out of that hole for them.
Yeah. And like you said, there's prep work that goes in before hiring that VA. It's creating a job description. It's creating a task list, then making sure for each task that you have, there's, the SOP that you talked about, building out a template calendar of like, these are when you're time blocking to do certain tasks. Obviously, a lot of it's going to change, especially if you're hiring a capable person. They will probably figure out issues and errors and inefficiencies by being in the role, but at least setting them up with like a guide. And then the other part to it is having really solid communication and open lines of communication. For our team, that looks like Slack or through our CRM Resimply, where questions are getting thrown back and forth constantly from experienced team members to brand new team members, where we have certain channels about certain topics, right? If it's deal specific or technology specific or marketing specific or property management specific, so that any of the leadership team or people that are more experienced, if they see that question come in, can quickly jump back and answer.
Yeah, having that open platform for communication is huge. And it's huge even just for us who are here in person in the States, right? But especially for those virtual team members to have that open platform to ask questions, communicate with other team members, instantaneously like that is big.
Yeah, because questions are going to pop up. No matter how good your SOP is, there will always be questions that pop up.
Always. And if you're going back and forth via email, it's going to be hell. So have an open platform of communication, like Scott said, whether that's your CRM, Slack, Teams, or some other, communication platform, that's going to be a big piece.
We didn't talk about internet connection.
Yeah.
That is a big piece when interviewing that we have discovered. Is in the interview, have them pull up a Wi-Fi speed tester and run the test live in the call and screenshot it. So you have proof that the Wi-Fi is working. Ask about if they have backup generator or backup Wi-Fi. A lot of our team members have invested into that. I don't know if that's something that they started with or they did because they had enough money.
Yeah.
But something to consider as well. The infrastructure over there is definitely different.
Yeah, rolling blackouts, power being taken away, reliable internet not being as common as it is here in the States too. So very good point. And even what I've done in the past too is not only during that interview process, but at the start of the shift, have them put in a screenshot of their internet connection. Because if you're going to have someone be dialing on the phones, talking to sellers, if their internet connection is subpar for that day, whether it's because of a rolling blackout or whatever, I don't want that person to be on the phones if there's going to be interruptions on their phone calls with the seller, if the seller's not able to hear or understand them because of the bad connection. If there's any sort of those hiccups, you're able to say, hey, let's just reel back from dialing today. Maybe you can still handle some administrative tasks with the bad internet, but you don't want them calling and having those interruptions on phone calls with sellers. Those are the most important conversations to have.
Yeah, the biggest misconception with virtual assistants is people treat them as plug and play. And it's like, dude, these are humans. They're just like anybody you would hire here.
Yes.
They're just in a different country.
Yeah.
So the same way that you're going to have a team member who's local, whose car is going to break down, or who's going to have to take their kid in because their kid got sick, the same stuff pops up for VAs. It's a little different. Like instead of the car breaking down, maybe it's an internet issue. You still, as the owner or the manager, still need to know how to process that and have a game plan for, hey, when normal daily tasks can't get completed, how do we communicate that? How do we cover it? How do we make sure that you're doing something productive that day?
Dude, let's talk about meetings. We've talked about meetings in a couple podcasts. Meetings are
our job now.
Yeah, seriously. We talk about always focusing on the income generating activities. We've at many points in our career have complained about the redundant meetings we've been required to attend, whether that's through a brokerage or some other type of Zoom meeting, right? Meetings need to be treated very meticulously because in the realm of virtual team members, meetings, even if they're 10 or 15 minutes long, are going to be one of the biggest things you can utilize to build that culture, build team players within your company, right? And it can be hard because days get away from us. We're out finding this task or out on this appointment, and meetings can be redundant. Meetings aren't always our favorite. But one of the things that is an absolute non-negotiable, especially when starting out a new team member or virtual assistant, are I like to call them, well, we use the term pulse meetings, a daily huddle, whatever it is. But the first 10 to 15 minutes of every single day at a set time, you're syncing up with the team, syncing up with virtual team members, making sure the team gets started off on the right foot for the day.
Yeah.
What are your opinion on those meetings?
I think they're helpful. It keeps the team kind of in line. I think when you don't have somebody walking through your office every day, you kind of forget how big the team is.
Yeah.
And I think even with our company, I don't see Nick very often or Althea at all, almost, except for in those meetings. And so it's good to keep in mind that we have all these players that are doing stuff behind the scenes that maybe aren't sitting across the desk from me. So that's the big thing that I've noticed about it.
Well, and like you mentioned, that goes for both in-person team members and virtual team members, right? And so and again, this goes back to put yourself in someone's shoes as if you were starting a brand new job, right? You want to be given the resources to succeed. You want to be given the environment to communicate any issues, wants, needs, desires for what your job entails. And by having those daily meetings, again, 10 or 15 minutes, non-negotiable, every single day of the work week, that allows you to build that foundation of culture for your team and retain your employees.
Yeah, the Pulse meeting is a lot for culture and a little bit for productivity.
Very much so.
So like you host it, so you could probably do a better job of explaining it. But the Pulse meeting for us, our virtual team gets in at 9 a.m. It starts at 9. It's done at 9:15. Please, if you're running meetings, make sure that they're on time. But everybody goes through, shares a win from the day before, or if it's a Friday, we share a core value because it helps ingrain the core values of the business and keeps them top of mind. And then at the very end, it's maybe a 2-minute section about deals or updates or things like that.
Yeah. Like you said, very much for culture, but still a little ounce of productivity in there, syncing up and making sure, the team's on the same page with active deals, any lead updates, stuff like that. Outside of those daily Pulse meetings, I know you and I both run a couple other meetings with virtual team members. One of them being, you've got an internal sales training that you run. How does that look with virtual team members, and what's the purpose of a meeting like that with them?
Well, again, we're talking just about people like team members in general, because a lot of these meetings, it's the same whether they're in person or virtual. I run an acquisition trainer meeting on Tuesdays. That is more specific to comping like specific deals, talking through specific objections, things like that. It's more sales training for the people closing deals. And then the internal sales meeting that we have for the team, everybody on the sales side. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus myself. 8 of us, we sit down and we run through, okay, what problems have we experienced in the sales process? What tools do we need to tweak? Where are we seeing the ball getting dropped? Where could we improve? And then also we'll talk about, okay, here's like a specific scenario. For example, we've done probate, or we've done tax delinquent, or we've done evictions, where we're talking about certain motivation points and questions to ask and things to look out for and roadblocks you may come up against. But that's every week. And it's really just to keep the team sharing their opinions, sharing the difficulties. Like I mentioned about the schedule, if you're doing your job right, your team member should be able to identify inefficiencies before you can. So they're saying, hey, a great example of this would be, hey, the dialer we're using isn't really working great. We should consider switching dialers. Great. We gave that employee the opportunity to go pull up a new dialer, split test it for a month. Turns out she's right. Move everybody over there. Boom. It's examples like that, or catching technical difficulties or even processes like human error processes.
Yeah. I want to talk about too, because a lot of people have asked and may think in person, it's a lot easier to gauge whether somebody's actually working or not.
No.
Maybe some days easier than others or harder than others. But for somebody that's virtual, it without any sort of tool, you really can not really tell with 100% certainty what tasks are getting done and if they're utilizing the time that they're on shift to be doing the things that they're required to do. So we utilize a few different tools with our virtual team members. So with TimeDoctor, or Hubstaff, we use those for our team members to clock in and clock out, right? So it's able to keep track of their hours, keep track of their pay, so that we know when the pay period's up, we know how much they've earned. In order to send payment out, we use a website called Wise that lets you transfer, American dollars into whatever local currency that your team members are using. So TimeDoctor / Hubstaff, Wise for sending out the payments. Those three things are integral for your team members. Regardless, you're going to need to be able to pay them, and you need some sort of system for them to clock in, clock out, and track their time.
And, we've definitely been burned by VAs before. We've had a couple different experiences. One of the benefits of using something like a TimeDoctor or a Hubstaff is you are kind of setting the expectation to the team member that, hey, at any point in time, we can go back and check to see if you were doing your job, but you don't always have to go do it, right? It's kind of like just even the possibility of doing it. Mm-hmm. We've only had a couple instances where things came up that were strange. One turned out, okay, it actually was something wrong. And the other, it turned out it was a simple mechanical error on a keyboard. So that team member replaced their keyboard and boom. Any concern from the team that there was maybe some tomfoolery out the door, because we can still see, okay, here's all the stuff she's doing. Here's everything going smoothly. She gave us no sign she knew of any issue, but she had one idea and it worked. So,
and I'm of the opinion, I think when you're first starting a new team member, if any issues pop up, clocking in late, not showing up for work, any other job-related issues while they're in that probation period, I'm of the opinion it's an immediate drop and you're now looking for somebody else. I think if in that probation period, again, I'm of the opinion that you don't have time to waste. If we're comparing somebody who's been on the team for 6+ months, 1 year plus, has had zero issues, something pops up, it's like, okay, this person's already a member of the team. They're out of their probationary period. This is not normal behavior for them, right? Let's figure out a way. Okay, what is the issue going on? What's this, that, and the other? But I think I'm of the opinion in that first 2-week probationary period, if you're already experiencing issues, somebody who's brand new to a job, clocking in, clocking out early or late, and there's not a valid excuse like a power outage or some sort of other weather-related event out there. There's a lot of tsunamis, so that could affect
a volcano.
If it's not something like that, I'm of the opinion you drop them and you start looking for the next team member. I don't know if you have the same opinion, but
yeah, it's definitely a fire early position when you're getting started. We have a talent bench that we're constantly recruiting to.
Yep.
Luckily we have pretty low turnover and we've had a lot of really good hires, but at the same time, we don't want to have a moment where it's too hard to fire a bad employee because we don't want to go find someone new. It should only ever be, we don't want to fire this person because they bring too much to the table and we just don't like the idea of replacing this person because they're hard to get trained.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like you don't want it to be, I don't want to fire that person because then we're just not going to have that role. It should always be, we have a replacement. It's whether or not the bad that this employee is creating outweighs the good.
100%. And I know we've dealt with a couple of those scenarios over the past few years, especially with virtual assistants specifically.
Yeah, and I want to shout out too. Like we've got Kevin. He edits the podcast reels from time to time.
Everything you see on not everything,
but
music. Yeah, he does a couple different edits on there that he'll post.
He's a good example of somebody too, where they came in as a cold caller. Kevin did, and Kevin was a great cold caller. And slowly but surely, he learned how to train cold callers, how to hire cold callers, how to help edit videos, how to dispo deals. He's managing different tools. He's creating trackers. He's going to leadership team meetings and taking notes and holding the leadership team accountable. Like these people out in the Philippines are also kick-ass rock stars. Now, there are not a million Kevins out there, but you wouldn't find a million Kevins in the US either, right?
No.
So with good hiring, intentional training, creating a culture where he's excited to be part of a team. And I think both of us can say Kevin is very much a member of the team. I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon.
No.
Like, no joke, pay him more money than what he would normally make in the Philippines by like, not double, but close to double. And he will be here helping on all these different tasks that you and I now don't have to do. Like, these are not simple tasks.
No.
I mean, we're talking hiring, firing, managing, training. These are stuff that you and I aren't even that good at.
Putting together complex Excel sheets, trackers, KPI sheets. Yeah, no, very much so, not just menial, entry-level tasks.
Right. And it's something that I think a lot of people would say, oh, a virtual assistant couldn't do that. They cold call, that's it. And it's like, no, that's what a lot of people start at. But I mean, we, like you mentioned, we have a VA who does a lot of property management, like complex stuff. I have never heard a complaint from her.
Handles the entire property management side of taking in tenant applications for new units, communicating with prospective and current tenants all through our property management software. Literally almost anything you can do besides, okay, hey, this needs something fixed and we got to send in our guy Nakia, our on-site team member who's very handy to go and fix something. But Althea's still the one who's managing that and putting it in place for Nick. All he's got to do is show up, fix the issue, and come back. Otherwise, every single piece of that is handled by a virtual team member, which is crazy. Another example.
She even catches a whole bunch of bookkeeping issues.
Yes, 100%. Going through receipts, transactions, QuickBooks, bank accounts. Like, dude, freaking phenomenal. Like a very, very solid employee that plays a huge part into our team. Another example of a task is, we have a transaction coordinator. Everything having to do with opening escrow, introducing themselves to the seller to facilitate a smooth escrow, talking with the title company and the escrow officer for all of the documents and communication needed during escrow. That's handled by a virtual team member, which is insane. That's a job in and of itself. It's a job that we know a lot of people have and do here in the States, right? But we've have that virtual team member who's able to handle every single one of those things besides actually showing up physically in an office or at a title company if needed, right?
Which we never do.
Never.
We never do. I think the purpose of this conversation is really just to like reinforce the power of knowing which kind of person to hire.
Yeah.
And then also hammering deeper into creating a culture. I think we should spend some time for the rest of this podcast talking about the culture aspect of it, is creating a workplace people like A players want to be at. I think that's a part everybody struggles with.
Yeah, I think one of the big pieces that we haven't talked about already is providing a pathway to not only skill improvement for your team members, but also, dude, a pathway for promotions, for pay raises, for all of that sort of stuff, right? As an employee who works for a company, I want to be able to step in and know, okay, not only do I have the resources in order to do my job correctly, but I want to be able to grow my skills and my knowledge in order to do my job better and even potentially, again, find that pathway to a promotion where now I'm maybe, like you had mentioned with Kevin, now instead of being the actual cold caller, I'm now able to vet, manage, hire, and train cold callers of my own because I know it like the back of my hand. So I think providing those, and an example of these are through weekly one-on-one meetings. You mentioned the acquisitions training that you do for both on-site and virtual team members, is providing that sense of where they can continue to grow and develop their skills and have a pathway to grow within the company. I think when somebody has that understanding and are in agreement that the company is on their side, that makes it a lot easier for them to be A+ players.
And we're living examples of it. We started as cold callers.
Yeah.
Now you're running the entire operation side. I'm running the sales side. We started at the entry level position just like they did. And
even before cold callers, we were both doing freaking paperwork and admin stuff.
We were paper pushers.
We were, dude.
But I think within the team, having a culture of promoting within, hiring and training the very best people we can find. We have a set of core values that our team all has memorized. They all share their personal connections to each Friday, right? So, I mean, on a Friday, you'll hear faith, efficiency, Kaizen. Each time you hear these core values, you can now start comparing your team members to our core values, right? And we're making hiring and firing decisions based on that kind of information on top of performance, which, to be honest, a lot of our team members are big performers anyways.
Yeah.
They aspire to outperform, and sometimes the inputs don't match the outputs, but that's okay. But at the end of the day, it's creating a culture where when people are waking up, they're excited, they feel like they're something bigger than just clocking in at a job. And there's opportunities, like you said, both financially to grow, but also skill-wise, education-wise, and then also, this is a part you didn't bring up, which is providing the opportunity for them to have fulfilling lives. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, two of our most important team members got to take a 1-week vacation last week. We didn't have to bother them at all. They were gone. It sounded like one of them got tired of being on vacation, but they didn't have to come back, right? We cross-train our team to help cover so that, you know, when somebody goes out of town on a vacation or has to go visit an ailing family member dealing with their own personal issues, they don't have to worry that they're dropping the ball for the team.
Yeah, 100%. And one thing that may seem small or trivial, but I think does so many more wonders than the time that it actually takes to do, is just giving recognition, especially to your virtual team members, when a sales goal is hit, or they crushed a phone call with a seller, or they caught a bookkeeping error of whether it's $100 or up to $2,000 or $3,000, which has been caught before, right? Little successes like that, being able to give recognition, especially on a platform like these Pulse meetings or team meetings, where you can give that shout out and give that recognition to this team member in front of the rest of the team. I think that is it's something that doesn't take barely any time to do, that does wonders for that specific team member and also for the team as a whole. Like, holy crap, I will get recognized for the work that I do, for calls that I crush, for KPIs that I hit. I think that's something that can make your virtual team members feel very satisfied and very excited to continue growing within the team.
Yeah. No, I think you're 100% right. It takes thoughtfulness. And I think thoughtfulness is not time consuming, but it is something you have to work at.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still, like most things, it's easier said than done. You have to be intentional with, relaying that message.
Yeah. And you brought up something that we're not doing right now. At least I'm not doing it at a high level with each of my team members, which is like guaranteed one-on-one time every week or every other week. Only one person gets that right now on the sales side, but giving them that time where they can bring those personal or business struggles that they're dealing with, or excitement and good news, whatever it may be, to just let them share it and just have community. I think I'm such a go person that I kind of overlook that, but even I have a one-on-one meeting with Jason where sometimes we got a lot of stuff to deal with, and sometimes it's like, dude, this is like the non-tangible stuff I'm dealing with, and here's the stuff I'm excited about or that I'm nervous about, right? And getting mentorship and friendship and companionship, just like an actual community where it doesn't feel like an employer-employee. It feels like we're a group of friends working for a bigger vision.
Dude, 100%. And I think, dude, this is a topic that we have a lot of experience with, and I feel very comfortable sharing and giving guidance on a lot of this, because I think not only have we seen reassurance through those people that we've shared this information with, but even just reassurance with our team members, right? One of the cool things we did over the year, like you said, Kevin, which is kind of our right-hand guy, who does a lot of utility work, just celebrated his 2-year work anniversary with us. We got to gift him something really cool. We got to give him a gift that he can now use for better utilizing not only his work life, but also his personal life. And dude, he was on, we were on the team meeting this morning after, it was yesterday.
It was yesterday.
After the weekend. And Kevin goes, yeah, over the weekend, my girlfriend and I, we were thinking about getting a dog or a cat. So we were going and looking at, a couple options. I really want a big dog, but our apartment can't really handle it. So we're maybe looking for a cat. But I think we're going to name it Katie. And the whole team's like, oh, that's a cute name. And then, and then he goes, yeah, it combines Cade and Scotty. Katie. And the whole team just bursted out laughing, dude. And that's something that's so freaking cool, dude. Like hilarious, absolutely hilarious.
It's hilarious, but it's also like Kevin. I mean, we could just say this openly. He's watching this podcast right now.
Yeah.
Neither of us view Kevin any different than we view each other.
No.
Kevin's just one of the boys, and he's somebody that we rely on. We have full faith and confidence in, but he's over in the Philippines, right? Yeah. Like that's the only difference. And I think it's because we've created the culture as if he were sitting right in this room next to us.
That's 100%. And that was what I was getting to, was that doing these things, it's not easy. You have to be very intentional with doing it, just like you would have to be if it was, an in-person, employee. But when you're looking to build your business, utilizing all of the things we talked about, all of the different tools we talked about, dude, virtual team members are the majority, if not at least 50% of our total company size. Granted, we're a small local company, but they literally make up half of our company size. And so I think that's a testament to all of these different things on how to effectively manage virtual team members and grow them within your team.
They're 7 of 15. So they're just under half.
Ooh, just under half.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and again, what's cool about that Pulse meeting is that our team doesn't all work in the same office. So the fact that Jason's on the Zoom, yeah, he's in person, doesn't make it feel any different than Kevin. He's on the same screen.
It's the same, right? Yeah, same thing.
So if you're looking to build out a team, I think we should run through a quick 3-step or something like that for the listeners on like what to do prior to getting the VA, just so that they're prepared for success or employee period.
Yeah.
Step 1, identify the tasks that you should no longer be doing.
That's it.
And write them all out. That should take you 3-ish weeks, because you kind of have to track your activities. And then at the end of the day, go, what could I have outsourced where my time was eaten up, not needing to do that? For example, Scott, a lot of it would be like miscellaneous warm calls, miscellaneous appointments I'm driving to that are far away, things like that. Drafting offers was a really big waste of my time.
Yeah.
Because it's a repeatable process that doesn't need to be done by an in-person. Step 2, once you have it, post it on Facebook or find one of those companies that can hire for you.
Yeah.
There are plenty of services where you can pay a premium if you don't want to do the
100%.
interviewing.
Yeah.
But if you want to go the cheapest route, Facebook, right? And go through the interview process. Again, ours looks like you submit your resume, your voiceover, then somebody reviews it, does a first interview, and then whoever the final owner of the business or manager will be, will do the last interview. So usually it's an application and then a 2-interview process.
Yep.
And then third is setting expectations for training and probation, right? Set up your pay, your probation, get them on Hubstaff or TimeDoctor, get them linked into your CRM and your Slack, right? Kind of an onboarding day.
Yep.
And then have somebody with them for about 1 or 2 weeks training them. Once they've gone through the 1 or 2 weeks, any issues, fire, rinse, and repeat. If there are no issues, give them 6 months in this role and see how they perform and do a 6-month performance review where you see, are they the right fit? Do they meet the characteristics I was expecting? Are they happy with the job? And then make decisions from there.
Boom. That's it. Dude, the description.
3-minute podcast.
There it is. The description, we will throw links to some of these tools that we're talking about. Slack is obviously self-explanatory, but Hubstaff, TimeDoctor, we'll throw those things in the description so those are easily available for you guys. And obviously, any questions that you have, we've helped people hire and go out to be able to hire and train and bring on their own virtual team members. Any questions you guys have from this podcast, you guys always know we're an open book, always peeling back the curtain and showing how to literally set up everything from start to finish. We're here to help.
And if you're a coaching student of ours, we've kind of added this bonus feature that we will help you with the onboarding process of finding a VA.
Yep.
So if you're an active coaching student or you're looking into the coaching program, just know that you'd get introduced to Kevin, who would help you guys identify new talent.
There it is.
Let's go, Kev.
Let's go. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.